Hey guys, it's your host Luke Croft alongside the always visually stunning Larry Hunt. We are reacting to Bethesda's E3 2016 press conference. Larry,
Yes.
initially, we just had an hour with Bethesda. We watched, 7 games probably get talked about and revealed.
Yeah.
Not much outside of that. Some DLC get revealed for Fallout, all that sort of stuff. What are your initial thoughts just right off the bat?
Similar to my thoughts about EA, I just was underwhelmed.
Yeah.
Not quite as bad as EA, but not great either.
Yeah, Bethesda had their first E3 press conference last year. We got the Fallout stuff. Really, big reasons to kind of have a press conference. I felt like this year it was a little less than necessary to do it because I don't feel like we kind of had that huge announcement like Fallout 4 was. Whereas if they'd just held off for a year and then came next year and been like, all right, here's the new Skyrim, check it out, they could have really benefited from that. Because now we have to think, all right, they're going to fall somewhere in between the Fallout announcement E3 or this year's E3. So quick rundown. We aren't going to do this very much. No, we did do it with Microsoft's. So we are going to do it with Microsoft's. the magic of time travel. We're having to record this after we did Microsoft, but we did get a chance to see Quake Championship. There was a pre-rendered trailer for it from id Software, the people who make Doom. It's going to be on PC only, 120 hertz unlocked frame rates. The pre-rendered trailer at least looked beautiful.
Yeah. Are we talking about these, or are you just running them down?
I'm just running them down real quick.
Right.
Designed for esports play. Then we have the Elder Scrolls Legends, which is a strategy card campaign opening cinematic. Real odd. Then Todd Howard from Bethesda Game Studio came out to talk about Fallout 4, some mods that are going to be added to that. Talked about VR support coming, Fallout Shelter, new things coming to that, and then a PC launch for it. Then we got a Skyrim Remaster announced. Then is it Armon Studio? I thought it was Arcane Studios. I think it may have auto-corrected for me.
Yeah, it auto-corrected.
Okay.
It's Arcane.
Okay. Arcane Studios, the people who do Dishonored, they revealed Prey, and we'll talk about that more here in a second. Then some added functionality to Snap Map for Doom that's going to be coming, and you can actually download the first level of Doom for free right now, and that's good for the week of E3.
Do it.
So if you can go try that out. Then they talked about Elder Scrolls Online for entirely too long. Then they revealed the Fallout 4 coming to VR, and then they spent the last 20 minutes talking about Dishonored 2. They kind of took the time slot that Fallout had last year, and they gave that time to Dishonored 2 this year. So let's start from the top. Let's talk about Quake. What'd you think?
I was super excited at first. My gaming, as far as shooters started, was initially on the PC, and Quake was one of the games I was into. I got way more into Unreal Tournament, but I played some Quake too, and so I was real excited. And then I found out that it is just a PC game, and so I will not be getting Quake, sadly. And that makes sense. I was just sad to find it out. But it looked good. It looked fun.
Yeah, it looks good, and it's kind of this staying true to the idea that people want things that they want reimaginations of things they've already played, and Quake was very popular and continues to be very popular, and so having a new iteration of that game is really cool. But we won't spend too much time on it because we're not a PC podcast. All right, then we got the Elder Scrolls Legends card game. I thought it was weird, looked dumb.
All these card games on video game consoles are weird to me. On mobile, I guess it makes sense, but it's still weird. I'd like to see a company, if they want to do this, I'd like to see them do it in a way that's sort of like Skylanders.
Mm-hmm.
Like you buy the cards and you've got to put the cards in something to use them in the game,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can play the game in real life too. But the idea of having to collect things that don't exist to play a game that's not real is just, it doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the Fallout stuff that got announced. So Fallout 4, they're going to be adding contraptions like elevators, armor packs, sorting machines, conveyor belts. They're going to be adding like an amusement park and a wasteland vacation thing. You're going to be able to build your own vault in much the same way you can build your own settlements. A lot of really kind of things to just kind of flesh out the world a little bit more. Was there anything in that announcement that really jumped out to you that you thought, man, that looks cool?
Not really. And I haven't played Fallout 4. I wish Ben was able to discuss this one with us. But I don't understand the practicality of the contraptions. Like, it seems more or less just to make your base look neat.
Well, and then you can like throw your junk on it, and let's say I want all of the fabric stuff to go to this place, and I want all of the metal stuff to go to this place, and all my ammunition to go here, and all my weapons to go here. You can do stuff like that. Obviously, elevators to be able to build with verticality in your settlements without having to use a bunch of steps. So there's going to be some practical applications to it. Obviously, armor packs are going to help a whole lot in the world as well. The building your own vault thing is really cool to me, although it doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the world that is Fallout, considering like the world is post vault. Like we've used our vaults because of the nuclear stuff that's happened. Like, why do we need to build vaults again?
That is true. And experimenting on the inhabitants of the vaults, it's very twisted, but it seems really enjoyable.
Cool. Like that seems really cool to me. But let's drop in Fallout VR here, and talk about that for a minute. I have some mixed feelings about this because we've talked a lot about how VR does need kind of like that actual game that you can get in there with and play. But Fallout is one of those games that demands hours and hours and hours and hours of your time. And like, I just don't know how comfortable I am on a personal level spending 40, 50, 60 hours in a world in virtual reality. I mean, obviously not consecutively, unlike the guy from the Microsoft thing that we'll be talking about next. But Fallout is such an immersive experience, and it kind of, and because of that, it fits in with the idea of what VR is supposed to be. But is it an experience that people can really take in solely through VR?
Yeah, I understand why it doesn't appeal to you, and it kind of doesn't appeal to me, but I think most of the people looking to get into VR are looking for like deep immersion, and they're willing to give up their real life to live completely immersed in this fantasy world.
Yeah. Then the Skyrim Remaster. A lot of people were wanting Morrowind or Oblivion being remastered. Instead, we got the last generation's game in Skyrim, the latest one at least, in Skyrim coming to us. I never beat Skyrim. I tell the story about the mountain all the time and being like, bump this. If I can't walk over the mountain and I have to walk around it, I'm never playing this game again. But I was impressed with what they did visually with the environments and stuff. But it still looked like people moved like a Bethesda game. You know, like they kind of have that clunky little like they're Minecraft characters almost when they're moving. And I mean, Fallout had the same thing, and I guess I enjoyed my 40 hours I spent with that game. But I have a feeling I'm going to try Skyrim again, and I'm not positive if I'm going to be able to do it.
Yeah, it's a remaster that makes sense to me. Skyrim released so close to the end of the last console generation, and in fact, I never finished the main quest of Skyrim. It's a game that I like 1 week in a month. I'll just jump into it, and that's all I do, and then I'll revisit it the next month. So I'll take a while to get through it, and I do every quest I come across. So I'm excited, but I can also see the people wanting Oblivion or Morrowind instead. That would have been really cool.
Yeah, and I feel like I have Skyrim Remaster on my console, and it's just called The Witcher. You know,
I guess,
and it does player mechanics better, and I think it does world building in an equally admirable way. And to me, the world's more interesting because you're playing as a character. Rather than creating your own kind of character and making your own decisions, but yeah, I'll try it, and I know I'm in the overwhelming minority of people in my reaction to it, but it almost felt like the reason they did their conference was to talk about a remaster, and I didn't really like that.
Yeah.
Then we got Arcane Studios revealing Prey. Now, if we don't just to refresh our memories, 5 years ago they revealed Prey 2, the sequel to the original Prey, and then that kind of just went defunct and out of the picture. Then all of it got scrapped. A couple years ago, Kotaku started leaking that they were working on a Prey 2 or a reboot of Prey. They got blackballed by Bethesda because of it, and then lo and behold, here's the reveal for Prey in a really cool trailer with a Groundhog Day concept in this kind of the space station that's being taken over by aliens, and you have to combine a bunch of different abilities and weapons and stuff in order to combat back against it. I really, really enjoyed the trailer for this game, and it really intrigued me.
It was, and the way the story's told, you kind of waking up not knowing what's going on, and the way people moved around in the environment, very totally first person game. It reminded me a whole lot of Project Breakdown, which if you've been listening to the podcast for a long time, you know is one of my favorite games of all time. I would argue one of the most underrated games, and so anything that reminds me of Project Breakdown, I'm immediately excited about. So I am excited to see where this one goes.
Then I don't want to spend too much time talking about Doom stuff because I don't think either of us really care about Doom. They announced the DLC pack Unto Evil that's going to be coming. Elder Scrolls Online, neither of us care about. They spend entirely too much time on it. That's where I started to kind of get lost. And by the time I got to Dishonored 2, I was just kind of out of it.
Before you move on to that, I think the one Tamriel was worth discussing. I think that is an innovation that I would like to see happen more in games. So there's no level limit. You can go do whatever with whoever. And I like that. It kind of reminds me of, I'm not sure how to be implemented in Elder Scrolls Online, but the concept reminds me of Dead Island, how you can, it doesn't matter what level the guys you're playing with.
There's a dynamic leveling system. Yeah, I think that's cool. And it is something that would be cool to see come to different games. And I think it's really one of those things like, I think part of the thing that holds people back from jumping into an MMO kind of game or a game like The Division or a game like Destiny as well, my friends are already well ahead of me.
Yeah.
And this gives an entry point at all times for people. Elder Scrolls Online has been out for a year, and they've dropped like the whole subscription fee and all that sort of stuff, and so they're trying to get people into it. And now this is another reason. Like, hey, I know my friend's been playing for a year, but I can go and do the same things that he's doing or she's doing.
Part of my fade out from Destiny was I just, as a parent, I did not have the time to dedicate to it that my friends who play Destiny dedicate to it. And every time it got to the point where every time I got on with them, I couldn't do what they were in the middle of doing. They had to step back and try to help me level up to where I could eventually get to do what they got to do. And anything that helps me bypass that frustration, I'm down for that.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Dishonored 2 for a minute. Kind of steampunk world where you get to play the aftermath of the original story. You get to decide whether you or not you want to play as Emily Caldwin or the protagonist from the first game, Corvo Altano. These spiritually gifted assassins that are trying to, well, in the first game you're trying to usurp the throne, and now you're trying to catch the usurpers of the throne. In this game, we got to see Kevin Garnett in the first animation as it. This is looking at me weird. As they were panning into the first room, there was a man sitting in a chair who looked exactly like Kevin Garnett. The world looks really cool, and I love games that are like, hey, there's more than one way to skin a cat. You can you can complete these missions in any way that you want. You can join with any side that you want, and so I like that approach.
Now, as I admitted to you earlier, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the Dishonored stuff. I'm not into Dishonored, and I was wrangling the toddler by this point and watching, and kind of burned out with Bethesda's presentation, to be honest.
Because they spent 78 minutes on Elder Scrolls Online.
Right.
Yeah.
But I will say that when they were explaining how they went about building the environments and like just the common sense approach of, well, how did these people get to work? Where do they buy their food? What did this area of town used to be? And how you can look at the environment and kind of tell how it has aged. I love that attention to detail in a world.
Yeah, and if you're providing that much thoughtfulness in things that we will spend 4 seconds walking past, how much more thoughtfulness is going to go into the stuff I'm spending 20 hours to accomplish. Yeah. And I always appreciate that. That game's coming out in November. If you pre-order it, this was cool. If you pre-order the game digitally, you also get Dishonored Definitive Edition within it. And so it kind of was like, man, I kind of want to pre-order this because the Dishonored games look cool. And I feel like they're kind of up your alley too, that kind of stealth idea where you're stringing abilities together. That shadow thing that ripped that guard apart in that one, that was really cool looking. Go ahead.
And the first one came out during a period of time where I was only playing multiplayer games, and now I'm a little more willing to play single player, so maybe I could step into it.
Yeah. So that's releasing on November 11th. All right, so real quick, grade their conference and a review in a word.
Yeah, I said that they did better than EA, but as we've talked through it, I don't believe that anymore. I think I'm going to drop them down to a D and just there wasn't much to it. The best thing they had to offer was really a remaster of a game that was great, but should not be the central part of your conference. I really feel like they could have done what they did in a half hour easily. Instead, I felt like they had to drag all this stuff out in order to fill the time that they were given.
So you're reviewing a word?
Dragging.
Dragging.
It just went on.
Or drag in.
And on. No. Dragons are cool.
Dovahkiin!
Fuzro blah.
See, it's funny because as I was talking about Dishonored 2, I talked my grade up because I was going to probably put them there around the D as well. But I'm going to give them a C though. And my review in a word is unnecessary because it did kind of feel unnecessary. Like the Dishonored 2 stuff would have been a cool YouTube series, maybe a few videos to release there, but definitely not something to end the conference on. And like you said, Skyrim Remaster, really not something that you should build your whole conference around.
Especially what they showed of it is more or less, here's some environments.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, but I give them a C because Dishonored 2 does look good. Quake does look good, and they're suffering from the fact that some of these games we won't play because we play on PC. So, all right, well, keep it tuned over here on youtube.com/player3podcast as we talk about the E3 press conferences. All right, thanks for tuning in, guys.
Bye.
Bye.